Prior to an interview, Molly Kennedy was asked to take an internal profile survey. This survey was created by John Irwin and adapted for this purpose. Molly looked at each row and ranked from 1 to 5 each word cluster. By doing so, it showed a certain pattern. By adding up the symbols within the survey, it showed her highest basic need and her lowest basic need. As you can see, power was her highest basic need at 22. Freedom was the next highest at 17, followed by survival at 15, fun 12, and love and belonging was 9. After Molly took the survey, the next step was to hold an interview with her. This gave us an opportunity to get to know Molly better and her personal story. Molly graciously agreed to be interviewed. She was brutally honest and shared some things that you would never think anyone would go through. It was unbelievable. Molly also shared her resiliency and gave suggestions to youth and adults dealing with similar issues and challenges in life. Sue Tomaszewski, a consultant and expert in choice theory, facilitated the interview.
Molly, it seems like you've had a huge amount of challenges, some of which have been being suicidal, having an eating disorder, being abused. Anything that you can talk about in terms of any of those, in terms of the person you are today?
I've definitely been through a significant enough trauma and obstacles. I think for me, when I look at the most significant and pivotal things I've been through, it definitely is related to my mom's alcoholism. I mean, when your mom's not really there to nurture you and be a loving mom, that's awkward. Then you have the animosity of the grandparents and her and the pawn playing. But because of that, because of her alcoholism, and just not having that nurturing, it really kind of made me seek or do other things to feel in control, which is obviously where the eating disorder came from, to have some sort of control. And also kind of to turn to people at school who I could talk to, because in my family you weren't allowed to talk about your problems. It was, we live in a nice house, and we drive nice cars, and we deal with things inside. You do not talk. We're very directly told, you do not talk or tell anybody about anything. We deal with it in-house. Which is, for a kid and me at the time, when I would say how I was feeling, I would be told, like, don't be ridiculous. Like, you don't feel that way, or that doesn't even make sense. So when you're not able to vent your feelings and get any reinforcement back, you're going to turn to other things. And so, I would turn to a trusted teacher at school, and that ended up blowing up, and the teacher was told, like, not to talk to me about things, because my mom came in and had a big brouhaha with the school. But the teacher was the only one I could really trust. And the teacher, who was also my coach, she helped me kind of get through my anorexia and helped me kind of start working out. And I was, on our basketball team. And it was like, finally I had like a trusted adult.
Right.
And finally my mom actually went to rehab and got sober when I was, I think, at the end of 9th grade. Because she had lost her job, because she stole money from where she worked and got caught. And, so you got 6 kids, and, you got to pay the bills. And so that was really, I was totally angry at her for that. I'm like, how can you be such an idiot? And, like, who does it? You have kids, And so money got really tight, and...
Was the husband still in this at that time?
Yeah, and and her husband still lived with us at the time. Yeah, so he had a job, but it was like, we live in a nice place, and you got to take care of kids. And
Sure.
So when she got sober is when things kind of got worse, because she wanted to all of a sudden be there. And, hey, I'm going to be a mom now, and I'm going to have guidelines and try to love you. And I was like, Like you kind of
Too
came
late.
too late to the game. And again, I'm a teenage kid, so I'm annoyed and angry as it is, plus all this on top of it. Yeah, so when I was 15 and, 3 weeks before I turned 16, I ended up running away from home. And I had a backpack with a couple changes of clothes in it. And I didn't have somewhere steady to stay. I would stay at a friend's house or my grandparents' house or, the teacher's house, and it was kind of nomadic for a while. And I actually went back to the house once with one of my teachers from school, who's a big guy, and the goal was to break into my house to get like my birth certificate and maybe some other clothes and some personal belongings. So we went around the back of the house where the family room was, but my mom's husband was in there and the drapes were drawn, and we were trying to pry the window open. He was on the other side, and he started like yelling at us, like, "You better get off the property. You don't belong. You're not welcome here anymore." All this thing, and the teacher was like, "Just let her get her stuff. Like, just throw a bag out with her stuff." And he's like, "You better get off the property." And so we left, and that was kind of the end of ever going there. I guess the sad part is I went to the same school. I didn't run away to Vegas. I went to the same school.
Right.
She never came to get me. She lived 2 miles from the school. So she didn't come and just go, "I want my daughter back. Where's my daughter?" She never came. So you get a sense of like, well, I must be a piece of crap if your own mom doesn't want you. And I mean, I had an attitude, but I was a good kid. I excelled in sports, excellent in school, student government, all these things to get me to where I wanted to go. So yeah, had an attitude, but I wasn't like a criminal or whatever.
Right.
So she never came, and then about a month or so after I left, she sent a note to my friend's house where they thought I was steadily living, because it was in the district, so we used that address. And it said, "My client is no longer responsible for Molly's upkeep and maintenance." And I still have that letter, and I always think, wow, it was like, was my dog? Like, upkeep and maintenance. And that was just kind of it. And that's where the abuse came in. Because the teacher who I trusted more than anyone in the world, who taught me how to drive and helped me get through my eating disorder and got me into working out and was kind of like a mother figure to me, she was the one who molested me.
Oh my God.
So that was like when you think it can't get any worse with all the things you've been through already. But the crappy thing was, it's like, it was such a terrible place, but I was like, well, I have food. Well, I have a roof. Well, I have clothes. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess it's
my rent.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna go back home. I can't go with my grandma. You know what I mean? So it was almost like you just did it. You just stayed there because that was survival. And I didn't tell anyone at school. She was this awesome person. Everyone loved her, and I didn't know to tell almost because I needed somewhere to live.
Right.
And it was
right. There was too much to risk.
Yeah, it was a very weird. It was. I mean, obviously, it was terrible. But that was.
And that didn't start until you moved into the house.
When I think about when it started, I can remember the first time, but I can't remember the timing of the first time. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually happened beforehand. I really can't place it, but it was almost like the only person who listened to. I mean, it was all grooming, which I now know, but the only person who actually listened to me and validated me, and it was so. Oh my God, this is what it's like when someone cares about you, and then you get destroyed. So I had no one to connect with in any way, and so that last piece, that was pretty much the dagger. That was just where you kind of just realize you're a piece of crap and you're not worthy of being loved, or you're just garbage. And but I think where that stubbornness and resilience comes in is I still graduated 4th in my class. I excelled for 4 years on the varsity teams. I was in student government. I got accepted to college, and I went on with my plan of going to college and grad school. And I didn't tell anyone about all this stuff for 20 years. So although on the outside I looked great, like, wow, she's really fit and achieving these awesome goals and getting her degrees and doing bodybuilding and marathons and triathlons. If they only knew on the inside, I was dying, fragile. And the bigger my muscles got, the more weak I was inside. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're building your body up to look tough, and the inside was just the opposite, but I didn't know how to tell anyone or connect.
Okay, so Molly, it sounds like there were lots and lots of challenges for you all through growing up. Were there any positives that you gained out of any of that?
Just give me a second to think. Nothing's popping into my head. Any positives? Like with my family?
Or just anything that you gained?
Like, I'm trying to think, do we have fun times? I'm sure there were. I just literally, like, nothing is popping into my head. Like, we always went to Darien Lake. Like, nothing.
Yeah, okay.
Oh my God. All right, I'll answer the best I can. So your question was what?
So you
good
had
time?
so many challenges.
Right.
Were there any positives that you think
right.
you gained from all of these challenges?
Oh, okay. It's hard for me to right now think of like really great times growing up or fun traditions. There may have been, like, I just can't pinpoint them right now, whether they're blocked or whatever. But I do know that because of all that I went through, the benefit undoubtedly is that I learned to become very resilient and probably very stubborn in a good way sometimes and not in others. And to really set my mind on what I wanted to achieve, because I didn't want to turn out like my family.
Okay.
I kind of rebelled by being a really good student. And I rebelled by getting really healthy and fit. So I was, maybe it's like totally dorky, but I just was like, I do not want to be like them. It was such a strong thing that I didn't want to be girly and all the makeup and the nails and the all the fancy, like, outside things. I just wanted to be just normal and real, but like fit and athletic and smart, so I could create the life that I wanted, because I knew I didn't want it to be that. When I reflect back on all that and what I do now when I travel around the country speaking to kids is to emphasize, like, you have to take off your mask. We all put our mask on to make it look like everything's fine, or I'm the happy kid, or the tough kid, or the whatever kid. When, until you really take off the mask and reveal yourself, you're never going to truly be as happy or at peace or as successful as you can be. And I think sharing my story and that whole concept too of taking off your mask is, I wish I had done it 20 years ago. If I had just had the courage to take off my mask when I was a teenager and tell someone, deal with it then. I can't even imagine how things would have been different, because my life is what it is, and I'm glad where I am now because of all of it. But I really like to encourage kids to not be embarrassed about whatever situation you're in, whether parents are, have issues or you made a mistake, is you have to move forward and grow from it, but you have to talk about it. You can't stuff your stuff deep down. You have to get it out and talk about it. It's embarrassing or vulnerable or shameful or dumb or whatever you want to call it. You have to deal with it. That's the only way you heal and move forward. And that's kind of why we're here, is to move forward to be the best version of yourself. I talked about counseling a bit, and I didn't go until I was an adult, when I personally felt like I was ready and when I really needed to go. But one of the things I talk to kids about is, you have to get your stuff out. You have to talk about it. To take off the mask, let someone see you and know who you truly are. And it's tough, because sometimes in our society, counseling or therapy or talking about it kind of has a negative connotation sometimes. Like, people don't want to tell someone they're going to counseling, or that means I got problems. And look, everybody's got stuff. Everybody has problems. So when I speak to kids one-on-one, or if they come up after, I always say, are you talking to somebody about it? Whether it's a parent, a school counselor, an outside counselor, someone that just a trusted adult. Every kid really needs that trusted adult. But talking about it, whether in a professional setting, a casual setting, with someone who genuinely has your back, is probably one of the best decisions a kid can make, or a teen can make, to deal with it and to heal, so they can move forward and stop hurting.
Right.
I feel like so many kids now, and like I was, they're hurting. And you don't need to be. I mean, yeah, life has its ups and downs, but with all the stuff going on in society today, if kids can just learn to talk about it, get it off their chest, and not stuff it down, the freedom and the peace and the happiness they can experience is what they need to really reach their true potential.
Right.
Again, on the pot calling the kettle black for a number of years, I would not talk about anything. I don't want kids to make the same mistake I made by holding it in for so long.
Right.
Best thing I did first day I went to counseling, really started to change the trajectory of my life, and I would not go back. I would never want to go back. When I'm talking to kids, when I speak at schools, I use a lot of humor. Kids love to laugh, and if you can get them to connect through the laughter, you've got them hooked. And so I do a lot of silly stuff. I do different characters and different voices, and I'm flexing the guns, like, whoa, get jacked up. Exactly. And they don't know if I'm coming or going in the beginning, but once you get them to buy in, like, all right, this chick's funny, and like, she's not some like princessy, pompous person. She's like down to earth. That humor is some of the best connection you can have.
Absolutely.
Because then when you come at them with the serious stuff, I mean, they're hanging on every word, and you could hear a pin drop usually. So
Right.
Stuff, problems we deal with, just on your own, just quietly read that. Just quietly on your own, just kind of scan that list. If I was a betting woman, which I'm not, but if I would, I would put money down that everybody in here, including the adults and all the adults who are here today, are dealing with at least one thing on that list, or what that list could be. If I was really a betting woman, I'd say most of you are dealing with multiple things on that list. But the beauty is, see, my circumstances set me up to be a hot mess. What are you setting up for you? I have some good news. You decide. Your circumstances do not. I had every reason to give up, to not graduate, to be an addict, I chose different. I knew that wasn't what I was supposed to do. I wanted better for me. It's a choice. That's your filter. And then finally, I found somewhere to live. I kind of was bringing my belongings in a backpack to different houses where I'd live until I found a place. And I finally found a place to live. And I remember thinking, after all that stuff, man, I finally have somewhere. Like, someone who listens to me, who doesn't tell me my feelings are stupid, and someone I'm trusted. And I was like, how fortunate. Like, things are finally going to change. And they did change. Because that's when the abuse started. And when I say abuse, I was molested. Or sexually abused. By the person I trusted most in the world, more times than I can count. I had such bad stuff at that point that my grandma didn't care, my mom didn't want me. It was so bad, I was like, well, at least with the abuse, I have shelter and clothes and food. That's how bad it was. But that seemed like a better option. And I stuffed that stuff down for 20 years. I don't want you wasting 20 minutes. I don't want you making the mistakes I made. But you really want to make a connection. You gotta lift your head up sometimes, you guys. Lift your chin up. Look at someone, make some eye contact. Let them see you. And I don't mean see you, I mean see you. You want to be tough, you want to be brave. It's not this, That's not tough. Tough is, I got some problems and I need some help. Can you please listen to me? or I'm hurting, or I'm struggling with this challenge. That's what strength looks like. Please don't make the mistake I made. For years I never asked for help. I was like, I can handle it. Asking for help is stupid. I'm not going to be vulnerable. Best thing I ever did was just be vulnerable. I got a lot of problems I deal with, and it changed everything. My life got my happiness back after 20 years, and life is good. So today you have permission to take off your mask, to be authentic, to learn who you are again instead of the labels and the, what everybody else thinks of you. You get to choose how you think and how you feel and how you act. And that's where you get the power from. Each and every one of you, you have the right to be happy. You deserve to be loved. You are valuable, and you matter.
Even though you don't have a license, it's time to get out of the passenger seat and into the driver's seat. You control your own destiny. Vroom, vroom.